RPN is not responsible for the views, actions, statements, or opinions of its guests or advertisers, or the people watching the program. The information on this program is not to be construed as medical or legal advice. An appearance on this show is not necessarily to be considered an endorsement, and as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. As always, I am Zak the Corruption Detector, and this is another edition of Red Pill News for Saturday Night Livestream. Joining me tonight is my good friend Patrick Ryan. We are going to be discussing the program known as Chiliad, designed and implemented by the sisters of Ghislaine Maxwell. Those ladies, let me tell you, they get up to some funky stuff. Chiliad is really quite brilliant when you understand everything that it can be used to do. They have created something that I never thought could possibly exist. At least, something that wasn't designed by the government. But you're going to find out all about it. Please do me a favor, don't forget to like and share this broadcast. Help us break through the algorithm. I appreciate all of you for being here. And without further ado, do me a favor, sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a brief word from our sponsor. When you see what's going on in our country right now, there are plenty of reasons to be concerned. Social unrest is making life very uncomfortable, and it could quickly get worse. On top of that, a second wave of CV-19 through the Dem agenda is threatening to devastate our economy and our way of life. Are we going to have severe food shortages this time? Will supply chains get cut off if people can't work? What if we can't go to the grocery store anymore? Well, these are realistic dangers, so don't let yourself be unprepared. Here's what to do right now. Go to preparewithredpill78.com and start building your emergency food supply. The experts at My Patriot Supply are the only people I use and trust, and you can too. And right now you can save $100 off a full 4-week supply of delicious, nutritious meals the whole family will love. My Patriot Supply makes it easy to be prepared at all times, and saving $100 off a life-savings 4-week supply of food is too good an opportunity to pass up, because the second half of 2020 is going to be wild. Go to preparewithredpill78.com and get ready now. That's preparewithredpill78.com. Do it now, because when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and please join me in welcoming to the program my good friend Patrick Ryan. Patrick, how are you this evening?
Very good. Happy to be back. It's been a while.
It has been a while, and you've been busy since the last time you were here. You've got your own podcast now, and I see that it is being published not only on YouTube, you got the podcast format, but people can go to your website to check it out as well. Before we begin, I just want to say thanks a lot to all the mods who are out there keeping the chat comfy. Table of Titans Hulkinator, what's up, brother? Real Red Pill Girlfriend. Leslie, Space Shot, what's up, brother? Great to see you. Wheezy and JoJo are also here. Let me just bone up that slow-mo just a little bit, because it looks like we've got quite a few people chatting away. So yes, once again, guys, thanks for being here. So Patrick, just for anybody who maybe didn't see the show that we did last time, give us an introduction to who you are.
Sure. Name is Patrick Ryan. I'm an AI warfare specialist, as pretentious as that sounds. Basically, I look at how artificial intelligence conflict may evolve in the future. and it looks like nothing you can even comprehend. It's not a bunch of robots running out there shooting each other. It's AIs hacking our emotions and hacking our cultures for the sake of extracting resources for itself. So I like to look and figure out, where is that conflict going to take place? How do you mitigate that conflict? How do you control that conflict?
Patrick, would you do me a favor? Would you just pull the mic closer to your mouth? It's there you go. Yeah, because it wasn't picking it up too much. Okay, so when you were here before, we were talking a lot about how that AI is being used against people, and how the tech companies are taking that data and turning it around to weaponize it on people. And I mean, in kind of in the same way, this program Chiliad has been weaponized against law enforcement agencies almost, and it's being used to the benefit of people that want to do nefarious things. So, give us an introduction. What is Chiliad, and how did you come across the information cueing you into the power that it had?
Sure. When it comes to researching the amount of data that any type of government entity has to research, it's a significant task. The amount of data you have to crawl through could be anywhere between hundreds of millions to billions of records. I know we have all kinds of fancy technology between cell phones and supercomputers, but it's still a considerable amount of work. If I was trying to figure out where a person is in the world, for example, I wouldn't just, who do I ask? I can't ask their mother. I can't ask like their wife. I can, but that takes time. I need to do some digital collection. I need to collect maybe whatever the FBI has to have, or 50 other government databases. Maybe I need to go into the web, into the open source space. What's going on Twitter? What's going on Facebook? What's this person's social network? So all of that is extracted and mineable. But the thing to remember is that it's not as if when I run this search from my keyboard, it's literally going to Twitter. That's not how the actual system works. It's going to what's called an index. So if this is me and this is all the databases I'm looking to search at, I'm not doing a direct query on that. I'm querying what's called an index, and that's keeping track of where everything is. Right? The index, it's pointing. I'm so confused with everything backwards. Anyway, the point is, it's the index is pointing to where the actual data is, and then I'm pointing to the index.
So it's almost like the Google of databases for law enforcement agencies, because you do a search on Google, you do a search on DuckDuckGo, and it brings up a bunch of probable information. And if the information isn't there, it's not necessarily because it doesn't exist. It's because they made a decision to make sure that it wouldn't be showing up in your results.
That's right. The web server may still be there, the source may still be there, but the linking, the indexing has been removed. And that's going to be a very important concept to understand Chiliad, because most large data or big data collection tasks and indexing tasks, they don't work real time. They collect near real time or eventual time. So they'll poll Twitter once an hour, once every 15 minutes. They'll do the same thing for Facebook. So there's a time delay. And so it has to not only collect all of the indexed information about where things are, it also has to reconcile about how they changed, because I'm collecting every hour. So my data could be very different 1 hour from where it used to be versus now. So the indexing is actually keeping track of all these changes as it goes too. And so when I search for someone, if they say cross a border, then I will have all the information about when they may have crossed a border, when they didn't cross a border, when they took an airplane, when they didn't take an airplane. But the key to remember here is that the indexing is constantly changing, and change means adding and deleting, which means modifying.
Is there a limit to the databases that Chiliad is mining information from?
Currently, they are in use at over 100 countries.
But I mean, like, the information it's pulling from, I mean, is it just pulling from all available information on the net, or is it from a specific set of databases that have certain points that law enforcement might want to take a look at?
Many different databases, in fact. FBI and government databases, around 50 of those last I heard, but probably higher now. Private databases, public information, data scraping, as whatever contracts they can sign with data providers and data brokers.
So who has access to Chiliad? Is it only law enforcement professionals? Because they used to have a website that was public, and at some point it switched over to some Chinese thing in the last couple of years, and now it's not available at all. But it looks like it was publicly available at one point.
It was, and that's when Christine Maxwell, who had started Chiliad, by the way, the sister of Ghislaine Maxwell, she started Chiliad. And there's a fantastic YouTube video of her explaining how this whole process works using her voice. And she goes out saying this is how it works. And I believe it was used pretty extensively right after 9/11 to identify people very quickly. Say, where are these people that we need them on the spot? And just Chiliad just happened to have the answer ready and waiting to go. So in terms of who uses it, governments use it across the globe. Law enforcement has access to it via fusion centers. And then, of course, the creators of Chiliad technically have access to it as well.
Wow. Okay. So why did they create it? What was the ultimate goal? Was it meant to be a product for government use, or did they start off with consumer aspirations?
They started with government use in mind. They may have had consumer aspirations that started once Christine came in. She happened to know where all the big contracts were and how the deals worked, and they moved very quickly into the government space.
All right. And is it only Christine, or was it her, I believe the other sister's name is Isabel as well?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Did they both have something to do with its creation?
My information is a little foggy on that. I don't know if they both had a hand on it. I would be shocked if they didn't, but Christine is the one taking the charge on its initial creation.
All right. Do you know how it's licensed out? I mean, do governments pay for it, like for ongoing access to it, or is it like a one-time fee?
Yeah, it's a licensed product, much as anything is.
All right. So, give me an example of how this is used, like in a modern day setting. Like, is it just if they want to find a certain person, or are they using it for a variety of things on a regular basis? Is it the go-to tool that law enforcement professionals are going to be using?
There's many tools that they have access to these days. Chiliad is certainly one of them. In fact, they had a very niche market exclusively on border crossing for many countries. So when you look at it, when you look at the data from an investigative standpoint, crossing a border is a data-rich event, meaning how often do you cross the border, or how often do I cross the border? Not very much.
Yeah.
So if we're crossing the border, there's probably some really good intent and purposes behind that. So you want to track when people move between the borders, because that's indicative of some type of important activity or transaction that has to take place. Chiliad decided to market itself exclusively in that space so it can monitor who important was crossing the border and who unimportant was crossing the border for almost every country on Earth. So they focused on that particular market very heavily. In fact, the one scenario that comes to mind involves the CEO of Wirecard. His name is Marcus Braun.
Okay.
And he was recently busted trying to embezzle $2 billion from the company. But that's not what got him in. That's not why he's necessarily important here. About a week before Ghislaine got busted, Braun was said to have flown to the Philippines, according to Chiliad research. So you'd have a person in there saying, "Where's Braun at?" And the record would show up that he flew to the Philippines. And so when you did a follow-up search on that to confirm it, you'd examine all of the video analysis around the airports that's where he landed. His face doesn't show up at all. So facial recognition doesn't conclude that he's there at all. And then it says, again, when he leaves the country, it says that he flew out. But the problem is that there were no flights out of the Philippines on the time in which he flew out. So it turns out somebody put the information in Chiliad to make this guy look like he was somewhere he wasn't.
Right. Does Patrick Braun have any connection to the Maxwells directly?
Marcus Braun. Not directly to the Maxwells, but definitely to the Chinese. So this is where it gets real interesting. So
okay.
The thing about Wirecard. Wirecard's a payment processor. They deal with all types of transactions and types of, well, just payment processing, kind of like PayPal, for example. And he was the CEO of it. Now, Wirecard had a special relationship with the Chinese. I should preface this a bit. My evidence is pointing to the fact that it's pointing to the suggestion that Wirecard had a heavy relationship with the Chinese. So this is a wonderful little site that I've learned to tap into every so often that some of your viewers may know, called Crazy Days and Nights. There's an article about
Big
that.
fan.
Yeah, big fan of Crazy Days. So there's one particular article they released. Oh, let me load it. It's around the July 4th. I think it was the day Ghislaine was getting close to being arrested. they had mentioned, and the blind reveal says it was Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, all the Maxwells, Chiliad, Wirecard, China, and all these type of things. So from this Crazy Days and Nights piece, which again could be entire speculation here, but the thing that happened is that this is where it gets a little wonky. The Chinese are suspected to have pressured Wirecard into being their payment processor of choice to run blackmail operations on powerful people across the world.
So do you mean that the Chinese are holding blackmail material on people and using Wirecard as, say, like the means to transfer the money so the blackmail doesn't come out, like the PayPal of choice for blackmailers?
That's exactly the case, because when Marcus Braun got caught, not only was he caught trying to embezzle the $2 billion, but he was caught with a copy of those transactions on his person.
Ooh, that's interesting.
That's going to be problems.
Now, who is actually investigating this? What country?
This is under German process, so whether they invested or not, who knows?
Yeah. So, where do you think, Pat, or where do you think that you said Marcus Braun? I'm sorry, I keep Yeah, Marcus Braun. Where do you think he actually went? Is there any evidence to point to where he likely was at?
There's some evidence there's some suggestions that have followed up that he was nowhere near the Philippines. He was instead on his way to some other Asian country, I think Korea, whichever the case. But the thing about the blackmail, about the Chinese having it, is not that they were generating their own blackmail, although they were doing that as well. They were also stealing it. The thing is, once you digitize your blackmail, Chinese are very good at stealing all kinds of information. They've been doing this to American IP forever.
Delete TikTok.
Delete TikTok, right?
Please do.
So the amount of blackmail they've been generating is one thing. The amount they've stolen is quite significant, and maybe one day we'll be able to understand who they stole from. And then there's also borrowing other people's blackmail, which is going to fall directly in the lap of Ghislaine Maxwell.
Please elaborate on that.
So if I go to Wirecard and I say, well, I want to create a honeypot operation where I'm going to take all this blackmail that I have access to, I'm going to put people in it, they're completely screwed, and then I want people to buy it en masse on dark webs, on laundering sites, on porn sites. I want them to buy it as well, so that they're compromised as well, en masse. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people. So you're seeding a population to turn them into assets when your guys in federal enforcement come and arrest them, and get them to flip and get them to cut deals. And so what you're doing is you're building an army from the blackmail perspective, all of which is going to answer to China.
So are you saying that the act of creating child exploitation films, let's say, or images, is more than just the act of exploiting the child and profiting from it? It was weaponized to create people that could be used. So
that's correct.
Okay, so not just a traditional honeypot with a brownstone in D.C., but a digital honeypot. So, okay, all right. So do you think that's why Braun had all of those transactions on him? And when you say all transactions, do you mean for the entire length of time that Wirecard was doing business, or just for, holy jeez?
No. He picked the subset in which the entire time this operation was running.
Okay, and how do we know when the operation started?
That one I haven't found data on. It's proposed to be around the Obama era, 2010-ish, but we'll see.
What leads you to believe that that is when the operation started?
I happen to watch a couple of those blackmail tactics happen on 4chan, getting the mods compromised and that type of stuff.
Really?
Oh, yes.
All right. So, I mean, when people think, maybe it's just me. When I think about this stuff, you think that it's happening on some, like, dark web Tor site, not necessarily on just a website that you can access, anywhere that you go. Obviously, I've heard of people posting things on 4chan or posting things on 8chan, but the mods are supposed to be there to clean it up so that people don't have to deal with it. But, I mean, what's your understanding about it?
If you have particularly asshole feds who decide to come in and say, well, you accidentally downloaded this thing, so we can bust you for 3-4 years, or you can do what we say. You're obviously going to cut the deal.
All right. Now, and when you're talking about the blackmail, are you saying that the feds use people in the same way that like the deep state uses people?
Yeah.
Okay. What is okay? And when we're talking about the feds, are we talking about like the good guy agents, or are we talking about like the cabal agents?
We're talking cabal types. Mostly that, all of the people that Clinton managed to put into play when Bill was president.
All right. And have you, during the course of your research, met anyone who had been compromised either directly or indirectly?
Have I met? I mean, I spent 14 years in Hollywood, so the answer is accidentally yes.
What can you tell us about people who are blackmailed in Hollywood?
It's a mess. A good chunk of the Hollywood stuff was done. There's a lot, and there's a lot that I can cover, but other people cover it better. I mean, you've seen Out of the Shadows, for example. Mm-hmm. You've seen all those pieces. They do a fantastic job of explaining it. I've met a few of those people. I've worked the larger parts of that type of stuff. There's a whole history there, which is probably worthy of its own show. But yes, I have not been essential to these people, but I have been in their proximity for sustained periods.
Wow. So you do a lot of shows about the currency of blackmail. I mean, it seems to be your forte. Where do you think this is going? I mean, are we moving into an age where this is no longer going to be relevant? Are people trying to, move beyond that? Do you think that has something to do with why we're going into this Cold War with China? Maybe a hot war soon?
Well, consider this. Blackmail does one thing that is pretty hard to make people do, and it puts a leash on them, which means it takes all the potential behavior they have and it reduces it down to something much more manageable. And so if you do that to enough people, you can create these puppets, large puppet shows where you're putting this puppet here and putting this puppet here, and don't you dare speak because I'll release the blackmail on you. So this is a time-tested strategy for centuries at this point. It accelerates considerably with the advent of film, the invention of it about 100 years ago, where now you can actually have evidence of people doing very disturbing things. And you can hold that over their head for life, basically. If you're a banker or a senator or a general and you happen to go to Weimar, Germany in the 1920s, for example, and you did some very foul, heinous things, and it just happened to be caught on film, well, that's it. If you were royalty, I have you for life. So, yeah, this is a tried and true tactic. The Bolsheviks were very good at utilizing it. The Germans would be later good at utilizing it. Britain would be notorious at it. We would eventually get in the game as well. So it's all of this was good enough to keep people in line so they didn't step out of order. Because let's say I'm running a mafia operation, for example, and I'm laundering $100 million out of someone's, ice cream shop or something. How do I make sure that the person I hired doesn't just take the money and run? Like, I got to put guns on him all the time. I got to threaten his family all the time. No, man, that's too much work. I'll just blackmail you, and then I know I have you. So there isn't a very miserable efficiency associated with it. But things change when people can mass produce fake images and fake video, and all of a sudden put people who aren't blackmailed in it, and people who were blackmailed in a bunch of fake stuff, which gets denounced as a conspiracy theory, which sounds like they're being protected, but in reality, you're cutting their strings. They are no longer held by the real blackmail because they can point to all the fake stuff and say, well, that's fake, so this one's fake too. So now you're actually freeing them, but by freeing them, they're in a whole world of trouble. So I suspect what we're seeing is that realization coming to the fore and people making their moves accordingly.
So, and this is a subject that's been brought up in the posts quite a few times. I mean, talking about the advent of deep fakes and people claiming that true blackmail material was fake stuff. We haven't seen any of that coming into play so far, but Do you think that that is something that's going to be happening soon?
It's there's a lot of things on the horizon that are probably going to resolve. If that's one of them, I can give it an 80% chance we're going to start seeing some stuff. I mean, Ghislaine's documents are going to be released next week. It could be also jujitsu, where it's like, I do my move, and then you retaliate, and then you do your move, and then you retaliate, and it's just back and forth, and watching and constantly monitoring who's anteing up, who's actually going to fold. And I suspect that's in the cards.
Now, you've specifically mentioned China, and I obviously China is a large threat, but typically whenever I think about these blackmail operations, I'm thinking about like the clowns in America, I'm thinking about Israel, maybe the UK. In your estimation, is China the number one holder of this blackmail material, or are they just very good at making sure they get everybody else's blackmail material?
That's the latter. So you don't have to run around making your own stuff, although they do. You can just steal everyone else's.
That's what they're good at. Stealing everybody's IP.
Yeah, that's it. It's just data.
Yeah. Oh, man. So if we see people releasing this blackmail, do you have any inklings about where this might come from first, or what types of things we're going to see first? I mean, is it going to be a Hollywood thing? Is it going to be an elected officials thing? Because what I'm thinking is, with all of the stuff that Maxwell might have in those documents, I can't imagine there's all this blackmail material in the documents. I mean, first of all, I guess it's only from 2 years ago, right? 2 or 3 years ago. The 2015, 2016 was that case with Giuffre. That's what's supposed to come out. And that was before, really, the advent of deepfakes. So if it's stuff that was produced prior to that, then they have lost that plausible deniability.
Yes, and, well, not necessarily. I can also deepfake stuff from the 1980s or the 1970s. And that's all plausibly deniable, too. In fact, you can plausibly deny the entirety of all blackmail if it really got down to it. You hear the elite in Europe talking about a great reset all of a sudden. How curious. What's the Jubilee? Is it debt or is it the blackmail? Who knows? But there's one source that you can't fake.
Which is?
That's Julian Assange's stuff.
Okay. All right.
It's encrypted and it's been shared across 10 million people.
Hey, do you know anybody who's actually seen it?
It's all encrypted. Nobody can access it yet.
Wow.
But it's 330 gigabytes. You can put a lot of video on that.
So you think that the Julian Assange Deadman switch, you think that it includes this blackmail material?
I would be surprised if it didn't.
Okay. All right. Now, you've never spoken with Julian Assange, have you?
No.
That would be sweet if you did.
I wouldn't be alive if I did.
Oh, man. So there clearly is a lot of stuff that Maxwell holds. I mean, there's been a lot of open reporting recently about the possibility of it being, made public. And do you think that that Maxwell would only work with the feds, or do you think that perhaps she might just put that all out there and then and then go from there?
She's a smart one, in a very cruel manner. She's a very smart one. She didn't play that game as long as she did because she was stupid. She had help. She understood that other people's livelihoods were on the line. So it's not just her. It is everyone that she has compromised, providing resources for her. And that's what's going to make this a little bit harder to calculate in terms of game theory. Because there's a lot of actors who have a lot to lose. And if you want an example, we were just doing research on that one case in Belgium with that electrician who was running around running pedophile blackmail operations that caught up everyone up to and including a Secretary General of NATO. And that turned into a very sloppy show. Even in 1996 standards, you had 300,000 Belgians running out protesting this whole mess. They were so shocked to tears about it. And all kinds of political officials died and witnesses died and anybody who talked to the police died, and then the police started dying. And there's a lot of hidden ambushes waiting for people who are going down this road, and it's probably going to get sloppy. They're already whacking the attorney, her son, and her husband from New Jersey, Salas.
Judge Salas, yeah.
That's most likely related. The Chinese are burning all their documents in Houston. That's most likely related. So there is a lot of panic going on, and panic makes people do stupid things.
Do you know anything about Mark Angelucci? He was the lawyer in L.A. or maybe San Bernardino, something. He was in California. I know that much. But he was gunned down a week prior to Judge Salas's husband and son being shot at their home in New Jersey. And at the time that I reported on it, he was initially reported to be found unresponsive, and there was no leads. And then once Judge Salas's incident took place, and then later on they find the lawyer Roy Den Hollander in New York, and they pin it on him because he had one time been before Judge Salas 15 years ago. Then they said that, oh yeah, it looks like we were looking for a FedEx driver as well in the Mark Angelucci case. Mark Angelucci was a men's rights attorney, and he was in a documentary called The Red Pill. And apparently Roy Den Hollander was also a men's rights attorney. But, I mean, I look at that case, and it just seems like a classic patsy. You know, this guy's got cancer. He has some tangential connection to both of these people. You know, we can just go ahead and pop him and then, throw a manifesto in his car, 1,700-page manifesto.
Yeah, convenient. Yeah, there's a lot of plausible deniability you can use to make links together and do that type of cleanup. Will they do it smoothly? I don't know. I think the panic is getting serious. So we're going to see people make mistakes, and social media is most likely going to ban more people and censor more people who point out those mistakes.
You're totally right. You guys, I want to say hi to Leslie Berger. I forgot to say hello to Leslie. Also, I saw that White Hat was in the chat. Good to see you here, buddy. And talking about fallen soldiers, my buddy Tommy G was banned on Twitter today. He was an important person in this movement because he had a blue check mark. That gave an air of authenticity to the things that he was talking about. It's not just I was called some guy with Skype and a microphone one time in an article. That's not how it is. We are out searching down real leads. We're talking about things. We're trying to dissect them, trying to get to the heart of it. I'm really sad that Tommy is no longer on Twitter. So that's a real big bummer. What about, what's his name? He jumped off the Century City building. I did a huge thread on it. Steve Bing. He is reportedly connected to this. I know all about his association with Bill Clinton. He was a special advisor. But after he, and here's the other thing. All of the American reporting said that he jumped from the Century City building. The reporting in Australia said that he died at home. He died at home quietly in his bed, and I couldn't believe it when I saw that. But what do you know about Steve Bing and his association with Ghislaine Maxwell?
A direct relationship, I don't know, but I'll give you one that might be good. The thing about Hollywood is that it's mostly money laundering. Now, they don't tell you that. It's all glitz and glam. But when it comes to financing a film, when you're handed a term sheet and you're an investor, and at the very top of that term sheet is going to be a phrase and says, "This is not a regulated vehicle by the SEC. This is for advanced investors and sophisticated investors only," meaning we're going to run your jewels. So there's all kinds of ways that this gets screwed up in Hollywood. There's all kinds of ways that you use film production to put money into a scenario. You allocate that money to produce some crappy film that bombs, and then the vast majority of the money that you put into it actually goes somewhere else. And that is an important part of Los Angeles, and has been for almost since Hollywood became Hollywood that we all know it is today. So that type of money laundering opportunity goes on all the time, whether it's in major studios, independent studios. It is a near constant. So was he related to those types of operations? It would be hard to imagine he wasn't. And I'm speculating wildly there, but I'm also giving guidance on where one would look if one was willing to research. And where was that money being funneled? That is something that is also of interest. So, is there a tie to Ghislaine Maxwell and Bing directly? I have not found anything, but I know that money laundering is a part of it. And there's also some speculation that Ghislaine Maxwell's Reddit account was found.
I actually saw that reported somewhere briefly. And any tidbits that we can glean from that?
Sure. So let's presume that perhaps it was hers. If we say that, then we say, okay, well, why our technology? Well, one, it has 4.5 million subscribers. That's a lot of subscribers. And this is around 2000, I don't know, 10 to now. Like she was there forever. What is so good about our technology? Why there? Is that how can that possibly be a point of interest for someone like Ghislaine Maxwell who has blackmailing everyone? Well, there's actually some pretty good calculation here. So tech journalists are mostly trash, and I don't say that with any quantifiers. They're mostly trash. And what they do is they don't actually cultivate relationships with people. At least back then, they understood the tech, but they didn't understand people. And so what they were doing is they would not cultivate relationships on the inside. Instead, they would just go to Reddit and they'd say, oh, well, Reddit already upvoted these things, so I guess I'll just write my stuff on that. And so that would run around the tech circulation, the tech journalist circulation, which would then inform the investors of Silicon Valley where to invest next. In a sense, if that was her account and she was modding it, that subreddit had significant influence on the investment dollars into Silicon Valley during that time period. She was a moderator.
Oh, I was muted. I was asking how much percentage wise would you say that?
I heard you.
No, I have to say it for the audience.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me.
How much of movies would you say is the money laundering aspect? Because there's so many movies where you're like, this movie is terrible. You know, how could they have put this much movie into a film, not knowing that it would, bomb as bad as it did? But if their goal is just to wash dollars, then they don't care if it bombs. I mean, if it doesn't bomb, it's just it's a happy coincidence. But I mean, what percentage would you say?
Movies rarely bomb. Because once you can shuffle the numbers correctly, you can come out at least break even. So, for example, they might bomb on the box office first week of release. That happens all the time. But what about the life cycle? What about the year of that stuff going international? What about the DVD sales? What about the merch deals? What about the advertising distribution shares? What about all those things that you can cut and slowly work your costs sunk back up? Well, that's what happens. You're able to recuperate your with the right team. You're able to recuperate in wild ways with very clever techniques and tricks. So it's not necessarily about the film's box office release. It's more along the lines of treating film like a long-term investment vehicle over a 2 to 3 year period. Once you start looking at film investment in that way, what happens next is you can negotiate all kinds of tricks. I mean, even the tax deductions, they kick in between 6 to 8 months, depending upon where you film and set up. That's a write down that you can sell. You can actually sell the tax deduction for cash before you even get the tax deduction sent to you. Because if I know a $600,000 tax deduction is coming my way, I can sell access to that for $500,000 liquid now. So now I got $500,000 in my hand, and someone else is going to get the $600,000 later on. So there's all kinds of tricks you can do in film finance to generally never bomb.
Interesting. I've heard that merchandising generally for things like Star Wars, Star Trek, that's where the real money's at. Obviously, Disney has destroyed the Star Wars franchise, and hopefully things are going to get restarted. But they're not selling the toys. Also, what with this, hoax, this pandemic that we've got going on right now, I would imagine this is significantly undercutting organized crime from being able to money launder anything. So what kind of an effect do you think that's having on people right now?
I've always argued that the wall wasn't designed to keep illegal immigrants out. I always I always posited that the wall was not going to be an actual wall. It was going to be an economic wall. It was going to keep certain people in. So right now, if you check the ability to travel to other countries, most Americans can no longer do it.
Really?
You can travel to Turkey and Greece, and that's it. You cannot travel to any other country right now.
Really?
So if you're crossing borders, which by the way, the Maxwell sisters can monitor when you cross borders, they can make you disappear or reappear. Because the volume of border crossings have dropped considerably, almost zero at this point. Anybody who decides to leave the country is going to be a big red flag that's going to get all the attention because nobody's leaving because nobody can because of the virus. So is this a way to defeat Chiliad? Maybe. The thing about one event, people tend to say, oh, it's really about this. Oh, it's really about that. If I'm planning events like this, which I've never done, but imagine if I could, I would try to get the maximum amount of events possible. I try to get every layer of the onion, not just one thing or another. I want to understand the value add to every part of a dramatic action like this. So there's a lot of costs and benefits to a lockdown of this nature, and if you put it in the context of Chiliad being able to change when people appear or not, and that this kind of really screws up that system, which may explain how Marcus Braun got caught to begin with. Pretty neat.
So going back to Marcus Braun, has it been publicized anywhere that that there is some link between Chiliad and his mysterious trip to the Philippines? I mean, has law enforcement tipped their hat on that?
They haven't gone public with that one yet. The only source that I know of that's actually making that association and not even technically naming it is Crazy Days and Nights. They're the ones that are actually running that association, which is why I use the measured language I was using when I described it.
Sure. I would love to have NT on the show. I've been trying to reach him, but I've never been able to get a hold of him. So, NT, if you're watching, I'd love to have you. Oh, man. So, if Chiliad is no longer in use, then what would happen to information gathering? I mean, how would they be able to go about it?
It's supercharged because everyone's at home now. It's actually improved it. It's just the ability to do transnational. The transnational events have limited, but the average citizen is now more connected than ever. They're not restoring the economy. They're not out there doing the small business, small rural town stuff. They're actually giving Silicon Valley even more power and even more money because they're stuck online at all times. So the data gathering that's going on, this is one of the largest data gathering events of an epidemic that has ever been done in human history. We're going to have a massive data set of what people are doing in these scenarios. And when the next one shows up, whenever that may be, you will see a totally different response than the one that we saw when this one rolled out.
So who's gathering the data? The U.S. government, other governments, private entities?
Mostly private entities. They'll sell it to governments, but they already have deals with governments anyway. So Microsoft and Amazon and Facebook and Google, the usual suspects, are collecting it. And Baidu is collecting, and Yandex is collecting. Everybody's collecting.
So let's talk more about the Maxwell family. Robert Maxwell, he's got a mysterious past. He came from Eastern Europe. He changed his name about 6 times before settling on Robert Maxwell. And it's known that he was doing some work for the Israeli military intelligence or something like that, perhaps Mossad. What do you know about his activities as an international spy?
Well, the spy part comes with the territory of being a effective journalist, because you end up collecting secrets on people when you're doing actual legit journalism, and collecting and hoarding those secrets is of immense value. Take Jeff Bezos's purchase of Washington Post, for example. Washington Post has a very long storied history with something known as Operation Mockingbird. Mm-hmm. The Annenberg School of Journalists flooded that place with their training to control the narrative. And they collected all kinds of blackmail on people for their entire run, whether it was radical activists, black activists from the 60s, police and governors. Jeff Bezos didn't buy the Washington Post out of nostalgia. He bought all the intelligence that they had collected over time. So Maxwell was, no different, the same operation. Any good investigative journalistic department of a news organization is going to have piles of that kind of information. And it makes sense that he would be collecting stuff too when he was running his operation. But he was sloppy about it, kind of brazen. I think he was brazen because he felt he was empowered by some of his patrons that he was answering to. And maybe those patrons kind of felt he was stepping out of line and perhaps getting too powerful and maybe threw him off of his boat. But I do know that he was celebrated as a war hero in Israel upon his death, and including having generals at his funeral. And there's one person, Whitney Webb, covers that in greater detail than I ever could.
So, do you think that Robert Maxwell turned his children into spies, or do you think that they just got involved because it was the thing that you do when you have access?
Ghislaine Maxwell was out there seducing British MPs when she was 18.
Mm-hmm.
There's photos of that where she's like dressed like total seductive, just getting British MPs to do whatever she wanted them to do. I think it was one of those bred to do things at this point.
And who do you think she was doing that for? I mean, for MI6, or was she also working in some way for Israel, or just was it anybody who would pay?
Why not all? The thing about that type of intelligence is when you start gathering it, it's going to put a big target on your back, and people are going to come, and it's carrots and sticks after that. And carrots is money, sticks is the intimidation. So you got to like deftly manage that type of economic transaction, making sure that you can hold the information and that you can be trusted to hold it and not do wild shit. Forgive my language, sorry. But and if you're reckless about it, well, then you get a different bucket. You get treated very differently. So it's you have national elements that would certainly benefit from it, because it was Britain that she was specifically targeting, and Maxwell as well. There's a lot of power in Britain at the time in the 80s, a financial mega center, effectively. The petrodollar was a big part of that. So for sure, I suspect that many nations would have an interest in what Ghislaine was up to.
What about her sisters? I mean, have they always been in the private sector, or do they have a history of having some relationship with various governments throughout the world?
Yeah, I mean, Christine, she was a part of Magellan, if you remember that from the early internet.
Oh, that was pre-Netscape, right?
Yeah, sorry, trying to
Sure.
trying to refocus here. Yeah, pre-Netscape, that type of thing. And she sold that. So she was in the Silicon Valley space when everything was popping off. Made her ties, made her associations. And it was only a matter of time before the government comes in and says, hey, all the Silicon Valley stuff, we wanted to collect data on it. And they did. They collected all kinds of data from it. That's where you get Google and Facebook from. Arguably, Facebook was a CIA program called LifeLog back in 2007. So data collection is an important part of any type of signal intelligence operation. And Christine happened to be there at the time in which all that was going down, most likely assisted by her sister's blackmailing operations, and Epstein's other spooky connections. So it's when you have assets at that disposal, it's hard to find replacements for those assets, and it's hard to find alternatives because they're so powerful. So once you form them, you have them, you tend to use them over and over again. You tend to rely on each other. The old version of blackmail was you would marry your children into another family. So kings would marry their children into princesses of other families. That way you could have a trusted relationship that these two people were not going to go to war with each other. It's not necessarily, there's two elements of the blackmail. One, it is attracting the scumbags, and all of them most certainly need to be put down. Two, it is establishing trust on a geopolitical level. So what it's going to do is, if you want to get rid of it, you have to find something that can engender trust between players at the geopolitical level. Can cryptocurrency do it? Maybe. Not all the way. Some of it. It can get the conversation started at the very minimum.
Mm-hmm.
There may be other alternatives, but if worse comes to worse, there's plenty of private military contractors out there. They can put guns on you all day if you want to step out of line. It's a brutal way of doing things, but if you got to do it because nothing else works, we've been there before as a civilization, so it's not above us.
It's frightening. All right, guys, I just want to let you know that we are 10 minutes away from the call-in portion of the show, so start getting your questions ready. Real quick, Patrick, I need to do a couple of quick thank yous to the audience. Donna, please follow me on Twitter. Okay, Donna, send me your Twitter profile, and I will follow you. Thank you very much for the donation. I appreciate that. Also, Natural Lady 17, goal to make RP78 famous in Lee County GOP. Were you speaking about me at the Lee County GOP meeting? That's awesome. Make sure that you tell people where to find me so they can watch the show. Thank you. Mary Ely says, love you, RP. Just using my Cash App for the first time. I appreciate that you used it to send something to me and support the program. Also, Timothy Vincent said, for my gratitude, Tim. Thank you very much, buddy. And then also Brian Cox. He says, for you and Methods, you're the heroes of our movement. Thank you very much, brother. Methods, I don't know if you're still here, but appreciate you being here to help me with the channel, man. I wouldn't be able to do it the same way without you. So now that we've got this Chiliad software being used by everybody, what are the loyalties of the Maxwell sisters? I mean, are they citizens of multiple countries in the same way that Ghislaine was, or are they just British nationals?
They have I know Ghislaine has at least 6 passports for 6 different countries.
Do we know that much about Isabel and Christine? I mean, they're not as public, and it's arguable how public Ghislaine is. I mean, she's infamous, but I mean, Christine and Isabel, they seem to be kind of, behind the scenes players.
Yeah, very much so. They are playing the professional game. The places Ghislaine cannot go, they can, and vice versa. So they're playing the full spectrum. It's a good setup when you really get down to it. If you wanted to be effective, that's a good way to do it.
Let me see. Cult 45 says, Red Pill, have you ever considered this guy your friend? Hang on, where did it go? Where did it go? Have you ever considered this guy your friend? What did it say? Something about you playing you as a deep state guy. I know Patrick, and so I know that he's not deep state. But, I mean, that's fine, Patrick, why don't you tell us what you did in Hollywood for the time that you were there? Maybe allay any fears that people might have.
Sure. So my time in Hollywood was spent primarily doing voice acting, actually, working at voiceover agencies and that type of stuff. Funny thing about voiceover agencies, they have unions and non-unions out there. And if you're a union actor, you get caught doing non-union stuff. It's considered a no-no. Your punishments are kind of light, but it's mostly considered a no-no. And so you end up doing a lot of non-union voiceover stuff under a different name and a pseudonym. And you get to meet a lot of surprisingly famous people that way who just kind of want to keep it on the low. And I had my fair share of meeting those people. And I also had the infamous situation where I was the director of web technology at Warner Music Group at the time when Edgar Bronfman Jr. worked there. And that's, for those who don't know, that's the brother of the Bronfman sisters. The Nexium stuff, right?
Yeah.
I heard rumors you wouldn't believe. I didn't believe. I wasn't anywhere near as... I wasn't consciously cognizant of the stuff that was going on at the time, and maybe I was in willful disbelief like everyone else there, but I've seen things. I've heard things. I've been asked to do things regarding like trying to stop the spread of videos. It's like 2011, 2012. My memory's a little foggy. I was asked personally by Edgar to reverse engineer a program that was spreading videos like Napster was. He was getting his ass kicked by Napster pretty heavily, which is why he started MPAA and started just blowing tremendous amounts of money on legal warfare to try and stop the piracy. You might remember you don't want to download a car if you're an old man like me. But he had asked me to figure out how to reverse engineer the program so he could then deploy his legal warfare against it. And I took a look at the program, and I reverse engineered it, and I said, this is all open source technology. You can't deploy legal weapons on this, because even if you wipe out this legal entity, someone else is going to just assemble all the open source technology and build it back up in 30 minutes. So you'll just waste all your money on this stuff. I was promptly told that you cannot talk to Edgar Bronfman that way. I said, oh, I was unaware that you could not talk to him that way. Who is Edgar Bronfman? I didn't know. I had no idea. I heard rumors, but I didn't know. I just did what I was told.
So you were given a directive by an intermediary. Edgar Bronfman didn't come into your office and say, Patrick,
I was in the meeting, which he was there, asked to do it. Okay. Intermediary was the follow-up.
He didn't like your answer.
He really didn't like my answer. And then they would later try to recruit me into Nexium.
Really?
Really.
Do tell.
That was a mess. They marketed it as their executive success program, where they would groom you to be a CEO of Hollywood and that type of thing. Pick your studio and that type of thing for the low price of $12,000. Yeah, right. Robbery. And the thing about Hollywood is wherever there is a supreme concentration of extremely attractive women, you need to raise eyebrows, because those women should be on photo shoots. They should be on millionaires' yachts. They should be anywhere. They should be everywhere you are not. And if you walk into a room and they are there, you need to be on guard. And that recruitment meeting, some of those gorgeous women I've seen in my life there. And I was like, okay, that's on purpose. That's straight honeypot, disarm, extend your disbelief, boost your ego type stuff. So I turned it down, and I said, thanks, but no thanks. Not very interested. And about a couple weeks after I had submitted that you can't reverse engineer this stuff, you can't actually use legal warfare to destroy video sharing. I was fired. My boss was fired. His boss was fired. Then he cashed out of his company at a 50% loss.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you can't fight it, so why not just sell it to the next schmuck who's going to figure it out?
Yeah.
Wow,
it didn't dawn on me why he was concerned about video sharing, because remember, this is a record label. Why do they care about video sharing?
Yeah.
Well, we just may have figured out why.
So they were thinking ahead all the way back then. Wow. I remember those days. Napster, LimeWire. I used to pirate everything. Oh, man, if only. It's a very, very different time now. Let's see. Okay, I just wanted to see what somebody was saying in the chat. All right, guys. I'm gonna open up the phone lines so that you guys can get in on the action here. I see plenty of questions for Patrick out there. I'm gonna turn on. There is the phone number right there. You've got one for the West Coast, one for the East Coast. There's the meeting ID and the passcode. I'm also going to drop the Zoom link into the chat. You guys can go ahead and use the Zoom application. Pirate Bay, yeah, definitely Pirate Bay. Pirate Bay was after, once they started putting everything together in a single spot. But LimeWire was always my favorite, because I guess LimeWire was after Napster had already been shut down. Patrick, what was? Did you have a moment when you were working in Hollywood that kind of made you step back in horror? What am I doing in this place?
I hated every second in Hollywood. I have entire videos of me explaining how much I hated Hollywood, and my entire purpose of going there was for the sole sake of undermining it entirely.
Really?
And there are people in Hollywood who will corroborate that story. They thought I was mad. They thought I was crazy. I said, no, I've put together enough pieces. There's no way this puzzle's good. There's no way that this house of cards is going to hold forever. You just got to kick the right places. And I never liked it at all. I did not like what Hollywood did to my generation. It planted impossible ideas in them. It made them think that it was okay to abandon your communities and it was okay to abandon responsibility and you could be a superstar and these type of things and like everybody could have access to being wealthy and rich and all this stuff. And I just watched sucker after sucker after sucker fall for it. And they would rationalize all kinds of dehumanization as a process of it. So I was not a fan of that, and I never was. But I came there to destroy that whole place. And that's a very long answer. Like there's a whole mess of stuff involved in my travels in Hollywood. But I never liked it when I moved there.
All right, so that's a pretty interesting thing that you went there with the idea of being a usurper. What made you decide that you wanted to do that in the first place?
I watched. It's funny. I actually just did a podcast about this right before I was on this show, basically explaining how very complicated economic processes destroyed where I lived and destroyed my family and destroyed all of my friends and destroyed everything. And the media just turned around and said, well, it's your fault that it happened.
Learn to code.
Learn to code, or do these drugs, or stop being white, or all these things, right? An endless amount of pre-canned blame the person for the mistake that someone else actually did. And it wasn't even a mistake. It was an intentional destruction of East Coast cities in the 80s. I just happened to be in one of them when I was a younger person, and I did not like what I saw. I didn't like the messaging. I didn't like what people were doing to me. I didn't like what people were doing to each other. It's hard to forget that stuff when you go through it. So I saw Hollywood as the weakest link. So I went there first.
Okay. All right. Well, that's a good answer. Let's see. Tanette. Thank you very much, Tanette. Tanette says, why is POTUS allowing contact tracing? Then we have a bunch of celebrities, politicians that get sick. Could POTUS and 17 team be monitoring them? Well, short answer is yes. I think that contact tracing could easily be used to monitor many people that they want to keep an eye on. But keeping in mind that contact tracing is not a new phenomenon. This is something that the CDC and other government organizations have been using for a long time to keep an eye on people. Patrick, there's a lot of anxiety that people have about the idea of contact tracing right now. But the way I see it is that it's just a different name for something that they've been doing the entire time. I mean, you know, they watch people's movements. They know that, okay, if you associate with this person or that person, and then they branch off and then they, you know, do an entire investigation. But do you think there's anything different about what's happening with contact tracing right now in the United States?
Well, different countries have different definitions of it. And how they implement it matters as well. In America, there's you can do the manual way, where you have just a bunch of snitches in each neighborhood calling you out. You can do the high-tech way, but that's going to have problems as well. And you can do the low-tech way, which kind of works. Yeah, if it's designed to reduce the spread of infection, then they need to empty out every apartment building in every urban center in America. And there are so many pockets of density. I mean, take New York City. New York City is 8 million people in like 3 square miles or something. It's a human ant farm, effectively. Yeah, your contact tracing is just going to explode every second of every day. So not all spaces of human density are equal, and so even then, your contact tracing may even break it down to like states, like in prerogative. What works and what doesn't. You know, everybody seems to think that everybody has their own opinion of what works and what doesn't. The masks are supposed to help. I look out my window every day. No one has a mask, so it's just like, the whole thing is intentionally messy. The whole thing is intentionally designed to make people in action, to put them in a state of inaction, and as a result of that inaction, they're making poor assessments about their political well-being, and they're making poor assessments of how to organize and unify themselves in a meaningful way to actually take their communities back. So if you recognize that factor and you find other people who do it too, find each other, work together, brainstorm. We all know the problem of mass media. We all know the messaging that they do, and it's all of a mess. There has never been a better time to work together to solve some of these problems.
I completely agree with you. My buddy Crypto Beatles, what's up, Robert? He says, sorry for my absence. I've been slammed. God bless you, yours, everyone here, everyone everywhere. Remember, the best thing we can do is spread the truth and vote Trump on 11-3 for 4 more years. Where we go one, we go all. Excellent. Thank you very much. And with that, my first caller of the evening, Trisha, Q Patriot, Texas. How are you tonight?
I'm great, Red Pill. It's good to talk to you again.
Yeah, long time no talk.
I know. I've been trying not to be one of those that calls every single week.
Don't worry. We always need callers. So.
I know.
As long as you add to the conversation, I will never chastise you for calling every week. So what's on your mind tonight? What's your question for Patrick?
Well, Patrick, this is my first time to meet you, so I have so many questions. I can't wait to look at your website. But your tone of voice tells me a lot about, or it makes me question how you feel about what's going on. Is there hope for us? I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yes. So a little. I should have prefaced this. I was on 2 podcasts before this one. I've been talking nonstop since 6 p.m. I need water, so my voice is a little hoarse.
Grab a drink. Grab a drink.
I think I need a, right.
Go for it.
In terms of hope, hope is not going to be given to you from on high. Hope is something that's in each of you. It is in each person to then cultivate and build a relationship with that, to then find it in each other. This is what this country was built on. The idea that we will figure out our problems as best as we can, collectively on our own, not from the collective from on high, but individual people and individual teams of people who understand their local problems, working together to solve it. That's where you get your hope from. And I would love nothing more than to see people actually tapping into that and embracing it. So everyone has the hope. It's all in them right now. They just need to find it in each other.
Yeah, Patricia, and this is something that I feel like I try to bring to the air every day. I mean, all of us have a unique role that we can play. We can all be proactive. And, I think that when people look at a situation with futility and they're like, there is no hope, we're not going to be able to do anything, we'll never break out of this programming that all of these people are collectively in, or the cabal ruling us. If you go at it with that mindset, then yeah, obviously there is no hope. You already know the end. It's hopeless, and so you're not going to do anything about it. So, keeping in mind that as long as we're continuing to move forward, we're all working, and I've often said that not everybody in this movement needs to be friends. We all don't have to have dinner together, but we can work towards a common goal. And, when we're doing that rather than trying to tear each other down in some way, then I think the chances that we're going to, get to the end and get the results that we want, they're far greater than otherwise.
Okay. Well, I saw your program the other day about that shadow ban website.
Yes.
And I wondered why I never got comments or likes or anything like that, but I am shadow banned.
Yeah.
And I've been on Twitter for 12 years. So am I blowing your ears out?
Not at all. No.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, I'm going to say goodnight because I know you have other callers, but it's so nice to meet you, Patrick. And I look forward to I hope to hear you somewhere else.
Yes.
Tricia,
okay,
one thing that I would recommend
yes,
is make sure that you are including a mixture on your tweets of active commentary about various things, as well as the sharing.
I do.
Yeah. But then, and then make sure that you're going. All right, we're still here. Can you hear us, Tricia? Hello. All right, looks like maybe her internet is sketchy. Hopefully Trisha's going to hear us. I'm going to remove her so then she'll know to go back to the stream. But, just make sure that when you're, commenting and adding commentary and sharing things, and then going to people's tweets and then joining in on the conversation there, because then people will get the notification that you've commented on whatever they said, and then they'll be like, oh, I should go check out their Twitter profile, and then they'll find you. Then they'll turn on notifications for you, and it's far more likely that people will see you. I've got like 112,000 followers on Twitter, and I maybe have maybe a 10% engagement rate, and just regular tweets. This is one of the things about Twitter. It's a double-edged sword. People that have a lot of followers, people that have a lot of people that they follow, it becomes increasingly difficult to find, individual people unless you know to specifically go out and look for them. So, that's one of the reasons I have no notifications on my phone, because otherwise it would just die within the first hour of the day. All right, let's go ahead and bring in our next caller. Don't Give Up 365. I like that name already. They probably have a fair amount of hope. So while we're waiting for their microphone to come on, let me just also say thank you to Garrett. Garrett sent a donation on PayPal. I appreciate you there, Garrett. Also, Holly said thank you for all you do and keeping us sane. Where we go one, we go all. Oh, that's from Mike and Holly. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. That was actually from yesterday. And then Renee from yesterday as well. Thank you very much, all of you. And then one more that I saw that just came through on Cash App. That is from the Spicy Conservative. She says, hey, good to see you, Spicy Conservative. All right, Don't Give Up 365. Are you there, brother?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. How you doing tonight?
Good, how are you?
Excellent. Glad to have you here. What's your question or comment for Patrick?
My question is about blackmail. And I know... the going theory is that people would engage in acts not knowing that they were being filmed, and that's how they would collect blackmail. But another theory that I've seen going around is that they knew exactly what they were doing, and instead of being targets, they were actually initiates. And that was kind of like the fee in order to get into this elect group. Do you think it could be a little bit of both, or one or the other? Or?
It depends upon the value of the target. So if you're doing a wide dragnet of blackmailing operations, say putting stuff on Pornhub or Motherless or 4chan or 8chan, you're hitting hundreds of thousands of people, and out of those hundreds of thousands, maybe 10,000 will accidentally download it. 1,000 will intentionally seek to download it, and then out of those 1,000, 100 will cop a deal when a Fed moves in and then puts pressure on them. So there's tiers even in that scenario, depending upon what type of functionality of personality you need for whatever operation it is you're looking at. And then when it comes to initiation, that's definitely takes place in crime circles. Because when you're playing in the billionaire game, there's no lawyers. Like if you're a billionaire and I'm a billionaire, and we're about to get in a deal with one another, is there a court on earth that neither one of us could influence? Both of us could buy off judges left, right, and center. So we intrinsically can't even trust the court systems that we use to get our wealth. So we need to come up with something else. We need something that's like rock solid, ironclad, and that type of it's been described as mutual catastrophic blackmail. That's kind of how you do it.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks. Don't give up. Take it easy, brother.
You too, man.
So that's like the digital version of mutually assured destruction. Everyone has stuff that they can use, and then there's also another category of people which are just sick, depraved people who crave that as whatever their disgusting preference is, and then those people can be used by whoever is either holding the blackmail material or continuing to offer whatever it is that they're interested in. I mean, that's something clearly that I think definitely exists amongst the intelligence communities, not only in America, but other countries as well. Have you ever read the book Secret Weapons? It's about the Hersha sisters, Cheryl and Lynn Hersha. It's an out-of-print book, and it's kind of rare. But it goes into the process that they use, and these women were brought up in the MK Ultra program, and they wrote this book with I believe he was like a retired FBI official, and what he was able to do was pull FOIA requests to verify each of their memories having to do with this program, either verifying that certain like generals and doctors were actually working at various bases at various times, and then also using their medical records and locations and stuff like that. But this was the first place that I ever heard about the idea of like a structured blackmail operation, where they would, use a child as a honeypot. And there's various levels of that too. I mean, like I said, there are people who are actively looking to satiate that desire, and so intelligence agencies will provide that to them because the children are just currency, essentially. And then there's people who might think that they are with just like a younger woman of adult age, and then they have them photographed and compromised, and then come to them afterwards and say, guess what, this was a 14-year-old girl, and then they've got them. It doesn't matter. So there's people of all different characters in here. But I mean, I suppose in a loose sense, they're all, of lower moral character.
Yeah, and excuse me, the structured. I think it's wise to understand that not all blackmail is equivalent, and I don't mean morally, I mean operationally, in the sense that think of it as a filter. You're filtering for certain personalities, and you're also filtering for certain people who can be useful in an operation, blackmailing a politician and keeping him in politics for 30 years, for example. You got to closely monitor that person's psychology. You need a handler, like a full-time handler on that person. Because on one hand, not all blackmail ends up to way where it's always puppets. So for example, if I'm the politician, you blackmail me, eventually I start doing so many favors for you that now you depend on me, and I can use that against you. So now you need a handler out there whispering in my ear, making me think I'm weak and insignificant the whole time. So there's all kinds of things you have to account for. I did a whole video about this. You can go to cultstate.com and actually watch that video. I break down the economics of blackmail as thorough as I could, so that you can actually get an operational, tactical understanding of how it works. And that understanding can then give you a guiding position and say, oh, this is what could possibly happen. Is it this kind of blackmail? Is it that kind of blackmail? Is it that kind of blackmail? And then you can actually follow current events perhaps a little bit better than you may already be doing so.
Right on. Mike Church in the chat said there's a lot of double speak. I'm skeptical. Mike, I believe that both Patrick and I are trying to choose our words carefully, considering the current situation here on this platform and in other places. However, I encourage you to call in, so if you have some reservations about what Patrick is saying, you can ask him about it. Patrick Atreides,
Can't believe this.
he who controls the spice controls the universe.
Why are you doing this to me?
Hi, it's Pat here, circa 5022.
How are you, Pat? Good to have you.
Hi, Red Pill. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Killing me.
Just another Q schizo from down under.
There's plenty of them, man. You're in good company. What's going on tonight?
Not much. Just been listening to Patrick talk since 6 p.m. EST. I do have a question though. I mean, Patrick, you have been referred to as the most dangerous man on the internet. I just have a couple of questions. How dangerous are you? How do you measure your danger levels? How often do you check those danger levels? Like, is it every morning? Like, is it a routine thing? And then what can the average schlep like us do to raise our
danger
own
level,
power,
yeah.
danger levels? Yeah.
That last one I can answer. The first couple I cannot. I didn't come up with that moniker. Some other people did, and I decided not to stop them. But in terms of, it's important to not increase your danger, because danger tends to bring reaction that you can't comprehend and control. It's much more important to raise your cost, meaning the cost to censor each of you that is listening right now is around 6 cents, meaning Twitter and Facebook and Google will pay roughly 6 cents to censor each and every one of you per person, 6 cents per person. If you raise that to 12 cents, then now you have doubled the cost of censoring you, which means now you're hitting Twitter and Silicon Valley in their pocketbooks. If you can triple it, to 18 cents and then go to 24 cents. If you can raise the cost of censoring you to be $1, then censoring you is not going to be an option anymore. So if you can think in terms of techniques that make you more expensive to their bottom line to put you out of the game, then you're not going to be put out of the game anymore. You're going to stay in the game. So I'd recommend, don't think in terms of danger, think in terms of cost.
Any ideas, Patrick, on how we can increase that cost?
Yeah. If you have some forensic accounting friends, I'd start there. But in terms of most immediate actions, it is possible to... There are a couple tricks. One, you can intentionally pick the wrong ads whenever they're shown to you. So it's not like you're clicking on ads for the sake of clicking on ads, although that works too. You would intentionally click on ads because the way it happens is you're temporarily short-term driving money into them, but you would actually be increasing their fraud rate, because there are people who pay Twitter to show you that ad and do that promotion stuff. And then people make the false assumption that someone was generally interested in that ad. So what you do is you don't click on ads you're actually interested in. You click on ads you're not interested in. Stuff that you don't really care about. If someone shows you, a brand new shoe and you're like, this shoe's stupid, click on it. And then sit on the webpage and leave that webpage open for like 20 minutes. Let the ad engine sit there and cry. Give them false metrics all day long. You don't want these guys thinking they understand your psychology so they can funnel you into purchasing one thing or another. You want them getting wrong answers about you all the time, because then you're going to start bleeding their revenue dry. You're going to drive up their fraud rate, and you're going to become expensive to censor.
Patrick, do you have any other thoughts?
Thank you very much. If you don't mind, RP, I'd love to wax lyrical on Patrick.
Please.
On the real Patrick for just a couple of minutes for any doubters in chat. Because I do know this man, but I'm just a regular, like I said, just a Q follower. I have my doubts, like everyone else in here right now. We all have probably a predilection towards skepticism and paranoia. But out of nowhere, I reached out to Patrick. I'm a nobody, 34-year-old dude from Australia. And without, any hesitation, he set aside, I don't know, what was it, like 2 hours, 3 hours out of your day, just have a 1v1 Zoom with me to help me out with my sense making, give me the second page out of the book, every second page out of the book. But yeah, it's he is good people. So anyone doubting him in chat, he's probably the smartest person in the room. So listen up.
Well, thank you much.
And he won't tell you that, but he's humble.
He's rather humble.
And I also recommend people doubt me, because in order for this movement to work, you need to be able to be skilled at researching, skilled at discernment, understanding what is this person here. Not everything's a mortal threat. Learn how to manage threat a little bit better, but also get your investigative skills up. Get them way up. You want to be able to beat the investigative reporters at Washington Post and do a much better job than anyone that's available in the mainstream and academia and all those people and that circle jerk. You want your investigative skills on chop, so doubt me. Go ahead, please, by all means. If that is going to improve your ability to do investigative talent, you let me know. I have a list of 400 open source intelligence research tools that are freely available right here, right now. And if you want to run me through those, do so. And that will teach you how to use open source intelligence. And that's going to make you a solid investigator.
Absolutely. Patrick, can I ask you a question? Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm sorry. Patrick Atreides. I should.
Oh yeah, it's quips. It's quips. Sorry, I go by quips.
Quips. Okay, quips.
QUIPS. Thanks, man.
Yeah, no problem. So your voice sounds familiar. You never called in before?
I have never called into your show before. I am. However, No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't content create whatsoever.
Okay.
I'm actually at uni at the moment, doing a double degree in international studies and law.
Good stuff.
So trying to, get inside to maybe break it apart or, usher it into the future with some, degree of morality.
I like it.
Yeah, so, but no, I haven't. I'm actually blocked by Methods on Twitter because I got swept up in a ban raid while I was posting.
Sure.
I don't know. Can I say that word
Yeah,
on
go
YouTube?
ahead. It's okay.
Yeah, shit posting. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, no, I have been aware of your content for quite a while, Red Pill. And I appreciate what you do, dude.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you calling in and saying that. Send me a message with your Twitter handle. Send it to my email so I can get it quicker. Or I guess you can send it on Twitter. Either way, but just make sure that you say, "Hey, this is Patrick." I'll talk to Methods about it.
I'll get your email. Your email will be in chat, right?
Yeah. The mods will drop it. It's also in the description of the video too.
Cool, man. I'll be back in the chat in a couple of minutes. But yeah, thanks for the opportunity, and yeah, have a good show.
Thanks for calling, Quips. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, Quips.
Thanks, man.
Peace. That was great.
Oh,
I
man.
gotta say, man,
That
I
guy's
love the Australian sense of humor.
God, he's so hilarious. That guy is constantly cracking jokes, and you're like, man,
It's great.
like, get a podcast. You're great at this.
Yeah, he sounded like, initially I was like, is this the guy from the Mysterious Universe podcast? I mean, his voice, it's a dead ringer. And here is a longtime friend of the show, Aaron Moriarty. You guys remember him. What is up, Aaron? How are you?
Well, if I was doing any better, I'd be you.
That's right. That's right. So welcome back once again to the show. Glad to have you, Aaron. How are you enjoying the program so far?
Great program. Great program. Patrick, you're a very interesting person. Is there any voice work that you did that we might recognize?
Yeah, if you ever play Soul Calibur 3, I'm the voice of Nightmare.
Okay.
That was one of my favorite games, dude. And when I learned that, I was like, I gotta find this so I can go back and hear it because I loved it. Yeah, it was great.
It's arguably the worst version of Nightmare, which I do agree. I was too nasally. I could have been much more guttural, but I wasn't. So, yeah.
Interesting. I had the good fortune to go to George Lucas's ranch to preview the movie Willow. Now, did you ever have any dealings with those people, or is he separate from Hollywood?
LucasArts, I've never touched. I've never gotten in there. He was a force to be reckoned with in Hollywood, but he played a very different game from the contract level, from what I understood. So LucasArts was they. By the time I got to Hollywood, they had shifted into video games pretty heavily, and so a lot of their traditional production that they used Hollywood for kind of. I mean, you saw what he did with Attack of the Clones. He went so digital. He went so deep into digital stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he was playing a totally different game, and none of my network actually got into Lucas.
I was working at Tonka Toys in a new product development group, and when we got the Willow license, we also got Cyber, and Cyber was going to be an animated show. It was done by the guy who did all the vehicles in Star Wars. And the story was basically, it was like this stick, a cyber with a ball on top that controlled all machinery, but this was in some other planet in the future. And everyone forgot how to operate this stuff. And this kid, he had the power to operate all this equipment. It's very, very, very interesting.
It sounds like a Warhammer 40K a little bit.
It was pretty cool. And then I had an idea for that was almost made by Ridley Scott for a movie called Time Warriors. That was pretty cool.
I've had people deal with Scott before. He's
cool.
He's a vision guy for sure. Very tough to logistically manage. He's managing so many projects; it's hard to actually get his focus.
Yeah. And Clint Eastwood, I think a great movie for Clint Eastwood would be The Last Spaghetti Western, where he did one more spaghetti Western to pay up all of his debt. And goes to Italy, and he has to get all the guys out of the mob to come and act. And
yeah, Clint is
that's great.
Clint's a wild character.
All right, man. So what else is going on in your world, Aaron?
Well, I just produced a little show with this puppet, Pkwy, where he introduces memes. Basically, he's like a meme hound. So
Right. That's great.
That's on my YouTube channel. And I think that with Hollywood going down, we need to, in this community, do a creative stuff in the new Hollywood.
Yes.
Where we don't blackmail people, we
Yes.
whitemail them.
Yes.
And
I don't have enough thumbs, but yes.
Yes, and cameras in every office, so you can't have the couch thing going on. But children's programming and the whole 9 yards.
Absolutely. There is more than enough creatives within this movement. I've seen the metrics. It is stunning. It is beyond stunning.
I wanted to bring these guys to Disney, but I'd rather start something else.
You don't even need to play the big players anymore. You own the distro. You own the audiences. They're yours. They can't be taken from you unless you screw it up on purpose.
So we already have the news. I mean, Red Pill and others have the news locked up, and now we have to expand and replace all the other bad stuff that's out there.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing: is that people have such a distaste for all of these various forms of entertainment. And it's difficult for me personally because I grew up, I was a movie guy, I mean, I loved certain directors. I loved the tone of certain films, and now I go back and I look at it, and all I can think about is the terrible stuff that I've learned about them over the years of research. So we need patriots. We need people with good quality character who can go in and create the next wave, the next generation of entertainment for the future generations that we have coming up here. I mean,
absolutely.
There's going to be a big vacuum. There's going to be a big vacuum in very, very many different I'm sorry, I thought one of the dogs was coming in all of these various areas, I mean, music, television, film, all of it, news. Hopefully I'm going to be able to fill that niche, when we get all these anchors like Don Lemon go into prison. We'll see what happens. Awesome. All right. Well, Aaron, thanks for calling, buddy. I appreciate you.
Good to meet you, Aaron.
We'll talk to you soon. Peace. Hot Games and Puzzles, check them out. Truth Quest, good show. We'll see you, brother. Peace. All right, good stuff. So somebody asked me, this is off topic, but Code wanted to know if I have any thoughts about the presence of tool marks in places like the Giza Plateau. Yeah, I mean, I think that clearly there was some ancient form of advanced technology that was used to create places like that, whether it's Pumapunku or the pyramids of Giza or other pyramid locations throughout the world. I think that it's probably very likely that we've had multiple resets of civilization. There's a great book called Forbidden Archaeology by Michael Cremo. He is somebody I would love to have on the show, and I'm going to be working on that. I've actually now, I'm 2 moves removed from Michael Cremo, so hopefully I'll be able to get him here on the show, and then Code, we can talk about that specifically. Think about the Bosnian pyramids when Dr. Osmaganic was on, and somebody is calling me on Skype. You guys, don't call me on Skype while I'm on the air. I don't know who this is. Okay, we're going to be letting our next caller in. Spicy Conservative it is. Good stuff. Glad to have you here. Whoever's calling my Skype, please stop. Please stop. All right, Spicy Conservative, good to have you on the show. How are you tonight?
Hi, I'm fantastic. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Yeah.
Excellent.
What's your question or comment for Patrick?
Sure, I'll keep it super brief.
No, don't worry about it. We got a half hour left. Don't worry.
Okay. Well, I recently woke up, as in, whenever my state shut down for, CD19, that's when I started researching and thinking, okay, something crazy is going on. So I've been researching a lot of topics, but it seems like the Hollywood elite, I keep running into roadblocks. And my question to you is it possible for these people to succeed without succumbing to all these nefarious acts? Or is it only possible to reach this massive superstardom if you to those?
You have freak accidents every so often that pop up.
People who are organically rising in Hollywood.
Yeah, that happened a lot online when the 2002 to 2007 era. you would see because the studios had no idea how to adapt to online, other than get Bronfman involved and just sue everyone to death, and then come up with the DCMA stuff to then just if you use any Hollywood content, we'll ban you and that type of thing. So that was Hollywood's initial response. Apple came along and changed that up. They found a way to bring Hollywood catalog to the internet, and so now there was a contentious point. So there was this weird period of time, a very short window, where people could organically get around the blackmail network, and but it is very well resourced, and they fought back and they won. So, and they're winning right now on YouTube. They're turning YouTube into nothing more than a gated community where cherished brands can pump their stuff without fear of any type of damage. And then Hollywood already has those relationships established with those brands via the agencies. So they turn around and say, well, we'll just pick what we're already good with. I've been having 3 martini lunches with this agent for 40 years. Nothing's going to change. We're good. So their control interface doesn't have to adapt at all. My recommendation would to let that system die on its own, and it will. And there's ways to kick and accelerate it, and God knows I have. But there are more important things here, and this is the future. You guys are creating your own content. You're not just entertaining each other, you're informing each other. You're building an actual legitimate community that's based on your own worldviews and your own sense making. This is some powerful stuff. Hollywood wishes it had this, which is why it's so angry at everyone, at everything, because they can't reach you. They can't turn you into that consumer for their agencies. You guys are doing this all because you have the passion and you have the drive, and it's your life. So I would let Hollywood burn, get the popcorn, enjoy every second of it, and start building a replacement.
100%. Yes.
Wholeheartedly agree. All right. Well, Spicy Conservative, thank you for calling. Appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you. All right. Now, this kind of ties in with that, but Gino sent a donation on Cash App and says, why aren't there more whistleblowers in Hollywood? I mean, I can already think of a couple of reasons, but Patrick, why don't you tell us why you think that is?
Yeah. Whistleblowers get dealt with quick. There's layers in which they can get dealt with. They can be excommunicated, blacklisted, blackballed. Plenty of blackballed people in Hollywood, for sure blackballed. You do reputation damage, especially if you were invited as a friend to a meeting and then they turn around and freak out because they are shocked that their friend engages in some wild stuff and some downright illegal stuff and horrendous stuff. Hollywood attracts from all types of states and cities, all types of personalities. They all land there and they kind of suss it out and figure out what to do. So whistleblowing is not as simple as run to the media. I don't think it's ever been that simple. Mm-hmm. The media, I mean, we saw how, what was it? One of the news anchors sat on Jeffrey Epstein material for 3 years.
Oh, yeah, at ABC.
Project Veritas. Yeah, at ABC. So Project Veritas, I mean, they had it for 3 years. Mm-hmm. So we should probably do away with the myth that the news is doing our common interests. They are doing their own interests. Mm-hmm. So if you have information on these people, you can't run to some perceived authority because that perceived authority is going to be undermined. The police in Hollywood, they are definitely on the interest of the studios because police have kids and maybe they want their kids to be actors or put them in the pipeline or whatever, or get them to hobnob with the rich and the famous because it can totally change their life. There are cushy jobs for LAPD where you just babysit sets all day, and that's a really connected position to be in. And it's usually reserved for older guys because it's not a lot of heat, and the older guys are trusted, the older guys in the force, but damned if they're not hustling themselves. So the weird thing about having blackmail on such a concentration of perversion that is Hollywood is that it turns out the only safe way to actually do it, because you can't trust anybody when you go running out public with it, the only safe way to actually do it is to run a blackmail operation yourself. And that's how sick it gets. Because once you got dirt on someone, you're like, oh, I should blow the whistle, but every avenue's closed off. So what do? You're like, well, I guess I have to empower myself now. And then the cycle continues. So it's a mess. It's a mess.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to our next caller. They are calling in using their phone number. So, caller 7874, can we get your name for the audience?
This is Connie.
Hi, Connie. How are you tonight?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I am excellent. So what's going on? What's on your mind for Patrick?
Well, it's for everybody, really. You know, I haven't heard very many people talk about this, and I'm not sure if Patrick might have brought it up at the beginning. But the election that's coming up, I know the Democrats are going to do everything they can to cheat and get into the White House. I'm getting the feeling that the messages that we're getting from Pew and some other places are telling us that he might have to step away from the presidency for a few months. Have you guys thought of that at all? And if he does, are we going to go crazy? Or are we going to understand that this is something we have to go through for just a short period of time?
Personally, I haven't gotten that message. What I've gotten from it is that perhaps at worst, the results of the election might be in question initially. Almost think like Gore versus Bush, when Al Gore would not accept the results of the election. And, I think that both sides were clearly cheating at that point. But, good old Brenda down in Broward County, Florida, she made sure that, all those hanging chads, it worked out good for George W. Bush. I think that that's probably the worst, that there's going to have to be a direct drill down on the election results. They're going to have to certify them and verify them, maybe weeding out some fake ballots, maybe finding ballots printed by China that were sent in. And, think places like Arizona and California, where in 2018, suddenly, lo and behold, a bunch of truckloads of extra ballots come in, and then the next thing you know, Kristen Sinema with blue hair and go-go boots is representing your state. I don't think that President Trump's going to have to step away from the presidency. I think that at worst, we're going to see maybe just a longer process to certify the election results. Patrick, what do you think about it?
I think if any contention exists, they have to resolve it at the local level, because if they kick it up to the Supreme Court, you're going to find that Ruth Ginsburg suddenly just stopped breathing, and you're going to have this fight to replace with someone else. So there's all kinds of chaos that could be done to really extend this type of mess. And it's wild chess. The more I look at this game, the more I'm like, how does anybody make sense? You have to be an intelligence agency just to make sense of any of this stuff, because it's just so many points of information coming in. Because every move has a counter move. So it's just like, whew, does he step away? I don't think, has a president done that? Has the president stepped away? And what does that look like? I'd have to research my legal constitutional law on that one.
Well, think about him moving to a different building for a short period of time until things get calmed down.
Are you saying like maybe there might be some unrest there in Washington, D.C., and it might be unsafe for him to be at the White House?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a constant.
Because they will accept this cheating, whatever the numbers show, as that he lost, and their candidate has won. And so to avoid it getting any worse than it could, he's going to have to step away from that building for a short period of time. And I'm just concerned that if we know that this is a possibility and we're prepared, we have such a much better chance of getting through it without being hurt too badly. And I haven't heard anyone talk about this, so I've just been really concerned about it.
I think that if President Trump was to give any credence at all to the possibility that he might not have won, then that would throw his presidency, even if he did get the most votes and the Electoral College did side with him. I think that would throw into question the legitimacy of a second term. I don't think that he would step away in any true sense. I think that he would remain the president while they continued to count and really drill down. I'm not saying that I don't think there's going to be an effort to cheat, or that perhaps the mainstream media talking heads might make it look like Joe Biden is winning. I mean, I think they're going to be going into it every, on the election day saying, Joe Biden polls are way up through the, through the roof. And then Joe Biden's going to be babbling on television and, probably not answering any questions. I think that it will be clear very quickly that President Trump is going to be elected to a second term. I think that after 2018, the feds, they saw what people did to cheat in all of these various places. I think they've been shutting that down, and I don't think they're going to be able to do it in the same way that they did it. And even if they try, they're going to be giving themselves away, and I think that it will be very clear that President Trump has won with a resounding majority. Patrick, any comments?
Pray for the Secret Service. They're going to be busy.
Yeah. I think that it is a good. I think it's very likely that perhaps you might have demonstrations. You might have people demanding that he not be president because they're just so overcome with anger at the idea of another 4 years with President Trump. But I mean, you look on the news every single day, and it's par for the course. I mean, they've got demonstrations going in many different cities. But as we talked about the other day, I mean, they've just launched new operations to put federal agents into these various cities. Somebody mentioned something about it not being constitutional. They're not just going to be walking the streets of Portland and rounding up black bloc members and putting them in federal cells. They're going to be guarding federal property, so places where they have jurisdiction. So, that's going to make a difference. But yeah. Go ahead.
Well, no, I was just, the thing is there's so many people that aren't clued in like a lot of us are. And when if worse comes to worse, then if it may look like President Trump isn't going to win, we know he's going to, but what I'm saying is they may think, and people are just going to freak out so bad. That's all I was concerned about, but you make me feel better, so I'm
Good.
Okay now.
Good. Yeah, I mean, one thing we can count on, they're going to do everything they can to make you think that President Trump isn't going to win, but this is a suppression tactic. They're going to say every day, Joe Biden is winning, Joe Biden is ahead. All the polls say Joe Biden is ahead. Every single poll is a lie. Okay, don't trust polls.
Absolutely.
Don't trust the mainstream media talking heads. I think that it's clearly very obvious that the Democrats are signing their own death warrant. Okay, they are supporting lawlessness. They are supporting the destruction and arson of businesses. They are sanctioning these activities that are taking place, and only, once again, in Democrat-run cities and states. I mean, you go to places down south where we've got Republicans in power, and you're not witnessing the same thing. They're making people think, because of the coverage, that this is happening everywhere. It's not happening everywhere. I think there are far more people who support President Trump and support his agenda, but they're just not showing it to you, and that is why I am always talking about it.
Well, that's good, and I'm glad to hear you say all this, and you did really good, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
So
I hope you rest easy.
Thank you. Good night.
All right, Connie, have a great night.
Good night.
All right, guys. Yes, have no fear. Red pill is here. Truth over facts. Joe Biden reference. I love it. Oh, truth over facts. As soon as you get your microphone on, we'll go ahead and bring you into the conversation. That is great. Let's see. My buddy Ken, Baby Yoda. What's up, Baby Yoda? I haven't seen you in the chat, but it looks like you are out there watching. Glad to have you here, buddy. I am always soothed by your calming presence. Let me see. And nobody else on Renee, that's it. Thank you, Renee. Appreciate you. Let's see. Truth over facts. Are you there?
Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. How are you tonight?
Roger that. Hey, man. Doing very well. I hope you guys are doing the same.
We are.
My wife might disagree with this, but she also calls me Mr. Amazing. I don't know if you remember me calling in from before.
You've always got a different name every time you call it.
Definitely love this show. Actually, Patrick Ryan, this is the first time I've ever seen you. That's one of the good things about these live call-ins is just being able to see other people and expanding it. You're definitely very well spoken, and you have a wealth of inside knowledge and all that stuff. So one of the things that I was really sitting there thinking about is just like today, this is the first time I actually saw you, and I'm just wondering if there's almost like a list for people where we can go and easily find other content creators that are really well known, do really good research, like iPod and some of his in-depth videos, like Connecting a Crisis and the Weatherman videos that he does. I've never even seen like 60 Minutes, and I've been red-pilled for, a lot longer than much of my other normie friends have.
Sure.
But I'm also watching other people get red-pilled. But for the first point is, do you guys have anyone like top 3 for both of you guys that you would like definitely check this person out?
Man, I'm gonna answer that one quick because I have a policy against recommending or cautioning against certain people. I find it to be a really important exercise for people to be able to discover that for themselves, because who I want to listen to is not necessarily who everybody else is going to want to listen to. And I don't want to denigrate anybody or make you think that you shouldn't be listening to other people.
Roger that.
So, I mean, that's how I look at it. But I would say at a high level, I feel like I really try to have people on the show that I think have valuable information to share. And obviously, with the how many shows I've done, hundreds by this point, I mean, clearly, I think that most people have something valuable to say and something that they can insert into the discussion. But but I will tell you that there are a lot of great people out there. iPod is one of the content creators that I've always wanted to have on the show, and he's just not in a position to be able to do it. So hopefully in the future, he will be in a position where he can. iPod, if you're listening, I want you to come on the show. But Patrick, what's your take?
I read a lot of boring stuff. I would recommend. I'm going to recommend boring like academic papers and like stuff like that. It's much better to have people break those papers down and just say here's why it's relevant and stuff like that. I haven't found people who actually do that when it comes to policy or when it comes to economics or any of the things that kind of drive a lot of the stuff we're talking about and swirl it. So. It's a hard find. You are correct. I read a lot of Zero Hedge, so I know they're bearish. I know they're very bearish in their investment approach, but it's the stock market keeps going up. Someone has to be the contrarian. So
Roger that.
Yeah. So my list is actually just boring academics. I'm actually a very boring person.
No, I get it. Myself and my dad, we kind of send a whole bunch of articles and videos to each other. And, he'll send me one, and I'm like, man, this thing is like 358 pages. Like, I don't know if I got time for it. like
just steal it for me, Dad, will you?
Yeah. Just let me give me the highlights. But no, I think a lot of people are just hungry for truth right now, and I'm watching. Yeah. And just for your listeners, one of my big red pill moments, just with how insane and fake the news really was back during the 2016 election. And it was whenever Hillary Clinton was stealing the election from Bernie Sanders, and WikiLeaks released those emails. And all of a sudden, Debbie Wasserman Schultz is standing there trying to talk to people, and they were shouting her down. I mean, these people volunteered. They gave money. They were all in it for Bernie Sanders. They fly out to the convention. And, I mean, it was genius the way he released it. It's like all these people actually flew out to the convention, and they're in an entirely different state. And then they release the emails, and everyone catches wind of this shit. And they're having, the Bernie people are having a meltdown. And these are liberal Democrats being silenced by other Democrats. And
Right.
we all know how outspoken liberal Democrats are.
Mm-hmm.
They started rioting in the street, and they showed like a 2-second clip of it, and then it was gone. And then all of a sudden I'm on YouTube and people are taking videos, and they're like, all of a sudden there's a white noise machine above the Bernie Sanders area. So it digitally cancels out their boos every time they say Hillary Clinton. And then they're videotaping the paid seat fillers. And then all of a sudden, if you really want to see, you would turn on the news, even Fox News. You know, they'd show like 2 seconds of it. And if Donald Trump had done that to any of the other Republicans, and, you know, they're out there flipping cars over and, you know, putting tape over their mouth saying that they're silenced, that would have been, I mean, he would have been trashed, done for.
Yeah.
It would have been on the news until Hillary Clinton walked in there. And
It's a tremendous double standard. Yeah.
Exactly.
The media does not like us. The media sees us as a freely rateable piggy bank where they can steal our attention on demand to buy stuff, and we need to shut up. And that's the relationship they have with us.
As Mika Brzezinski said, it's not our job to give people information. It's their job to control the narrative, or something like that. I can't remember exactly. All right, Truth Over Facts. Thanks for your call, brother. We're almost done. I want to get one more caller in.
Roger that, man. Have a good evening.
All right, brother. Thanks for calling. Appreciate it. All right, you guys. We've got 4 minutes to go. We're going to be going to V8 Ive, and that's going to be our last caller for the evening, depending on how long their questions. Where'd they go? Here we go. Caller, are you there? Got to bring them in. All right, you guys, we've got over 4,000 people still here, just about 2,300 likes. Please do me a favor, leave a like on the broadcast and share it as well. I think this was another important episode, and help us break through the algorithm. That's the only way we're going to be able to do it, is if we share the information. I'm sorry, caller, I don't know how to say your handle. V8 Ive?
Vative, yes.
Vative, okay, Vative. Well, thanks for calling in. What's your question for Patrick?
Hi, yes. So I'm still fairly new to the Red Pill 78 channel. I'm not sure how far you guys go into these theories. But I'm sure you guys have heard about the celebrities such as like David Spade, Ellen DeGeneres, Howie Mandel, and Tom Hanks, and how they've been kind of talking to one another.
Sure.
So one question that I've had, because it's been on my mind a lot with that whole theory, is that sort of code talking between one another on social media? Is that something that they would do? I feel like they would kind of keep that a private matter and not kind of expose themselves in that way, because there is a lot of coincidences having to do with how they talk with one another.
Patrick, you know, it's almost like they assume that we are not smart enough to be able to pick up on those cues. I mean, knowing what we know about the way that spies will communicate with each other openly through those same types of signals intelligence. I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think that the celebrities are doing the same thing?
Yeah, that's stego. In the encryption space, we call that stegography. And that means hiding one message in another. So the reason celebrities are what's called media trained. Media training is a thing that most people don't know about. It's where you learn how to be in front of a camera, and you demonstrate mastery of putting your maximum presence in front of the limitations of the camera. So, you know, standing like this and then keeping your eyes wide and having enunciated lips when you talk, you know, that type of stuff. Like all these things, like all these tricks, and sometimes deflecting, like I point over here and then this. And so they learn how to maximize this tiny little box, right? Using their behavior. And that's supposed to hypnotize the audiences in a very subconscious way, to where they either absorb the emotions that are being sent to them or deny them. So if I'm like crying in the camera like this, if I do it in the media trained way, then the audience feels it. And so because they feel that, that's the message they receive. What I say is not actually recorded in the brain of the audience there. So what I say is actually meant for another audience.
Gotcha.
And that's how you do that. That's easy.
Yeah, the short answer is yes. I definitely think that they are sending messages to each other and I think it happens pretty much universally. I mean, not just within Hollywood, but I mean, you can probably pick up any newspaper on a given day, and there's going to be a message for somebody that we don't realize that's in there.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
If you don't mind, I had one more question regarding
Please.
that. Another thing was, now we're not going to, of course, say that we know whether or not some of these celebrities are alive or not. But that is one of the theories as well, like including with Tom Hanks, how some people are saying that he's already been executed, or some people are saying that he's in Gitmo and blah, blah, blah. Do you think that that is a possible situation that could take place? And if that was, do you think that's something that society would accept, that they would do these kind of engagements under the covers, something that we wouldn't see?
I'm going to take the liberty to reframe that question to get to the same answer.
Okay.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I want to add some additional context here.
Yeah, for sure.
The idea of a celebrity is someone that grows up with you. It's not as if they're a star because you saw this piece and you liked them once and that was it. We meet that all the time. That's what the recommendation engines on YouTube is for. But a celebrity is someone who's been with you since childhood. Like Tom Hanks has been with most of us since childhood.
Splash,
Toy Story, all these
big,
things. Huge, big, right? So this celebrity grows up with us, and we have expectations as we go through our life cycle that these celebrities then have to mimic in return. This is a technique you do to maximize your brand as a $20 million a film actor. You're trying to mirror the life cycle of your audience, because it's not enough to be a brilliant artist and a brilliant performer and then you're liked for every performance you do. It rarely works that way. People are temperamental in their art tastes. They change. Life happens. What I liked when I was 15 is not going to be what I liked when I was 40. And a good brand, a good artist is going to recognize that and change with the audience that he has personally cultivated. So when these brands get terminated, which happens all the time, you see celebrities die all the time. That's a period of collective mourning. That's where everyone goes, that's also part of the brand. That's the sick thing. It's not that the celebrity dies and they're dead. Their brand lives on in catalog. You still resell all their movies. You resell all the merch, all the licensing. It all goes to the agents. It all goes to the managers. It goes to the agencies. So the brand doesn't die just because the person dies.
Interesting.
And so it just keeps going and going and going until eventually it just fades out of memory. But by then, that maybe they had a kid and you can pass it on to them. I mean, look at Michael Jackson, right? It was Paris Jackson. These are all the techniques that you do when you have good managers and you have good representation in CAA and these kinds of things. So even if a celebrity dies, there will always be a story ready to maximize that pipeline that I just described.
Gotcha. Awesome. Thank you for letting me ask those questions.
Okay. Vadim, thank you very much for calling into the show. I hope you enjoy it and that you continue to watch.
Definitely.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye. All right. Excellent. Now, I also want to bring up something real quick. There were multiple people in the chat saying that you sounded like Methods. I just want to go on record and say that Patrick is not Methods. Methods has a southern twang. Patrick clearly has a northern accent. So
I don't know who Methods is.
He's my co-host on Comfy Sunday and on Occam's Razor during the week. So, all right. Well,
I mean, I am a voice actor. I can do the entire thing in Irish if you like, the whole time. Speak it if you will.
Oh man,
stupid human tricks.
I have a confession to make. I was looking to see if I could find a headshot of you to use for the card tonight, and I found an old headshot from many years ago. I couldn't believe it was online. It's the only thing that I could find online. I was very surprised. But all right, well, Patrick, I want to thank you very much for coming here tonight. I want to let everybody know that if you want to follow Patrick's research, you want to listen to his podcast, see the shows, you can go to cultstate.com. It is in the description of the video below. Patrick, what do you want to leave the audience with?
You are all aware that things are wrong, and you want to do something about it. And it's nice to kind of defer and let someone else do something about it. And a lot of us are trained to kind of accept that. But this is the internet. We don't need to wait for anybody. You can get in the game. You can start making content. You can start making relationships and build those and make them solid, because you're going to be under duress soon. You're going to be under duress in the social media space, in the political space, in the finance space. You're going to be deprived of access to your bank accounts. When you can, as the political opposition mounts and they get much more ruthless and they get much more reckless in their drive for power, they're going to start aggressively, not just censoring you from social media, they're going to take your bank accounts. They're going to take your ability to be politically represented. They're going to take all of these things from you, and then they're going to laugh at you for being mad about it. And then they're going to attack you, and then they're going to laugh at you for attacking them back. They got the whole script lined up. It's all written. They're just executing by the numbers at this point. So you got to be active. You got to be in this fight. Don't wait for the heroes. You are the hero. Be the hero.
All right, beautiful. Patrick, thank you for joining us, and I am looking forward to the next time you come back on the program. Thank you to all of the mods for keeping the chat comfy. Thank you to everybody who did like and share the show. 3,900 people, 2,600 likes. Please leave a like on your way out. Thank you very much, you guys, and make sure that you are back tomorrow at 9 p.m. for our next guest, which is going to be Ann Vandersteel. It's going to be a great show. Good luck.